So the spirits really want to talk about the inner child for us all. And just as we are brought up with a genuine child, we start our life from a baby and from a child. That inner child, as we grow up, kind of still remains in a deep part within us. The inner child, starting with a baby, doesn't have the capacity for a language yet. It's still developing the language, and so it really represents and is the deepest part of ourselves, the part that really hasn't got words to explain anything, just the initial impact of emotions. So the baby to the child is all about this big bag of kind of emotions, the love of that, the hate of that, the upset of that. It's all an emotional universe really for that child. And they really want to talk about, they show me a card of a little child in a cot. You know, like the start of the child's life. The child is in the cot with excitement in its face, looking out to the world. That life is totally new experiences for the child, potentially good or bad, or a mixed bag, a huge bag of all sorts of mixtures. And that child remains in us throughout our entire physical life. That child holds all our feelings. It keeps them kind of sacred. That's the container for all our feelings before words. Before we could put words onto the feelings, the child is and represents that part, the deepest part of ourselves. And often as we grow older, we begin to put words on top of the feelings that don't necessarily match. Perhaps the feeling was hurt, and perhaps we want to put words on top of the feelings that make us feel superior, so we don't feel that hurt. Or perhaps we'll delude ourselves into a different reasoning so that we don't feel the pain of the child's hurt. So really the child for us, and for all of us as physical beings with a spiritual body inside, it's like that's the core. The core of us all is our inner child. And to a greater or lesser extent, some of us are more in tune with our inner child, and some of us really have kind of lost that tuning with the inner child in us. They've lost, not all the time, but sometimes they move in and out of it, or sometimes they've gone a very, very long distance from their likes and their dislikes, their initial love of life or hate of life or upset. They've distanced themselves from their inner child. The difficulty is that the inner child is our life force, really. The inner child is the truth bearer. It has the truth on it wears its heart on its sleeve, really. So of course we learn to hide these things as they don't seem appropriate in life, and we can't deal with them, and it's just doesn't work, and that situation made it worse. So instead of listening and then deciding, what we tend to do is smother. We smother our own child. We keep the child in the cot, locked away, kind of never to come out. The child gets disheartened, upset, and there may be wonderful things in our life that we always loved. We said we'd never stop doing. Perhaps we love to dance or something like that. We love to do that. And in our lives, we've gone further and further and further away from the pleasures in our life related to the child. Why? Because we're not allowing ourselves to go there in our day-to-day, or in our week-to-week, or in our month-to-month. We're not allowing us to enjoy those pleasures of the child. The child gets horribly unhappy about that, like a real child, disheartened, just disillusioned, so upset, but the child knows it's not being listened to or heard even anymore, and so it just goes and hides really in the cot. It just goes and hides. It's kind of become apathetic, despondent, disinterested. And then we wonder why we're just not interested in dance anymore. And it's not because that joy isn't still there waiting for us. It's because we have walked so far away that the child has genuinely just shut down from it. I mean, you know, there's only so much disappointment a child can take before the child withdraws, really, gives up, feels angry too at some stage, feels angry. And so you might even find that the thing that you really loved, you just feel angry about it, that the world is stopping you from doing that. So you kind of feel angry and resentful about the very thing that you really loved to do and always loved to do it. Can't understand why you're no longer loving it and you're kind of hating it now. And even anything that relates to it, if you see a dance poster, I mean, just using dance as an example, seeing a poster of it somewhere, this relates to any pleasure in your life that you loved and that you always did and then you stopped doing. Anything that relates to it, you kind of even feel you want to really reject it. In a way, you don't want to allow that child to resurface only to be smashed down again, and neither does the child really. The child knows there's no hope of doing whatever it is that gave you the joy. The child is despondent, the child is just given up with it. And you don't want to give the child the hope to bring it back into life only to smash it down again. If for you there's no chance of that. But the truth behind it is that we have smothered the child and the joys of the child. We have smothered that. We have said, I've locked your cot, taken away the key, that's it. You're not going there. It's too chaotic. We haven't got the time, we haven't got the energy for it. We haven't got the capacity for it at the moment. We just can't spare that energy. We're all focused on this, we've got to do this, we've got our finances to sort out, we've got to do this, we have to do this. So just shut up, that's it. You know, this is what we're saying to our inner child, shut up. Behave, shut up. So we've done that to the child. And then what we do is, because we've done that on the inside and the outside world will reflect everything back to us, we then will blame X, Y, and Z for, and yes, the outside world will reflect the fact that we've made the child shut up and suffocated the child. So it will bring up lots of reasons and examples and genuine. It'll make genuine circumstances which make it impossible to reanimate this child, to bring it back to life. The outside will reflect the inside. And so perfectly common sense examples why you just can't do that, haven't got the time, haven't got the energy, etc., very real. But actually the first stage that has happened is that we have suffocated the child first. And so therefore the world is only reflecting our actions on our own child. If we start to change that and we start to think, well, okay, if that's the fact that there's joy and there's complete disappointment and disillusionment with this child, how can we start to bring this in a consistent way where we don't keep smashing the child? And so we then can start to allow ourselves to bring that child back to life in us. And that child is living and breathing in all of us. And just has a life to a greater or lesser extent. We see people, perhaps on social media having a fantastic time and going and doing stuff and just feeling even worse about ourselves and our own fun and our own joy. But it's only because they are allowing themselves and allowing their child in their world to have some life. It's like envying something when we can do something about this ourselves. We can talk to our child as if, and it is, a real person. We can talk in a more feeling way because the child doesn't really have words. That's the first part of ourselves. But we can talk to our child, make some sort of deal with our child, make some sort of arrangement that once on Sunday, we're very cruel to our own children. We're very cruel to our own children. And that's like a starting point for us. We might be kind to other people's children, or our own children. But we're really cruel to our own child, who is longing to do a little bit of something where their love and their passion and their life force comes from. But it's like we teach them the societal pressures. We teach them that won't work if we do that. We haven't got energy for that if we do that. That'll be a disaster if we do that. We'll fail that exam. We won't do any good. We won't. But actually, by bringing the child to life in ourselves, even if you can do it in a range, it's important to be consistent so that you don't smash that again, keep smashing it. It'll be very much the case, they say, that once you bring the child forwards, your energy will come back to yourself, your joy will begin to come back to yourself. And then you're not going to lose your purpose. If you have your purpose that's very rigid, it's very important to you, perhaps your exams and the things that you're working towards to improve your life, those still all exist in the same person. Bringing the child forward doesn't mean it's one or the other. Quite the reverse. Bringing the child forward, you're all in the same family. You're all in the same family working together. So bringing the child forward, bringing the energy and positivity forward into your body, you will find that your purpose, we generally have like this kind of very strict map in our mind. This is how we want our purpose to go. We want to hit that point there by spring, hit that point there by autumn, that point there by, and if not, I'm going to fail, etc. But bringing that child energy from the child forwards, it will allow you to be a little bit more flexible about the positive things that come and realize that we can certainly choose our purpose and everything moves with us if it's the right purpose for us. Everything galvanizes together and rolls forward like this wonderful snowball, gaining momentum. If it's a good, right purpose for us, it all starts moving. And the child will be moving with us with that energy. And so we'll find that all those things that we've mapped out from us, we can accept really positive things coming, but they don't have to be exactly in that same point anymore. We can allow a little bit of flexibility in that, a little bit of fluidity, allow a little bit more movement. The map is still building beautifully. It's still building beautifully with your energy that you've put towards these goals. It's like we get stuck in our head, I think, that it's either the child enjoying themselves or the purpose gaining momentum. So we're either in one family member or the other. And because we're wanting to keep a very strict control over our purpose and the direction of this must happen, this must happen, this must happen. And they really want to express that allowing ourselves to grow with the child, to expand with the child involved in the family as well. You're all going in the same direction. We're all going in our own internal families. We're all going in the same direction. Okay, the child likes to enjoy this, that. Unless, of course, we're not talking about negative pleasures. We're not talking about the child going and drinking, and the child, the deep inner child is looking to do those things that he or she loved to do initially. Those are the things we're talking about. We're not talking about going on benders or those kind of more destructive things. That's a confusion. The actual deep start, the baby, the child, would have found those pleasures. You know, whether it might be making an aircraft, you know, a little sticking together, creating some kind of, whatever it is, the hobby or the thing for you, that it is the thing that it will only allow expansion. Yes, the adult person does get a bit cross themselves because they think, oh, this means I'm losing my way, I'm losing my purpose. No, it doesn't. We all have our own family. The child doesn't want to work against the grown-up person. It just needs some expansion and some more joy. It's that danger between thinking, okay, we have to control the child. Perhaps the child just wants an ice cream. You know, perhaps the child just wants something, but perhaps something consistent in their lives. So that's what they want to really, really strongly talking about, that we have got the child tied up and locked up in the cot. We've dumped the child there. It's pretty cruel, really, if you would think about it from, you know, an outside perspective, what we've done to the child, our own child. It's like, we'll be lovely to everybody else, but when you get a day off, or when you go and do that thing that you love, oh no, I don't bother doing it anymore. You don't bother doing that anymore. Why don't you bother doing that anymore? Oh, I just turned so tired by the time and then that pattern gets more and more fixed. And actually you get more and more unhappy, and then often the part of the child may then go and grab for destructive things. You know, just as a silly example, a whole chocolate cake, or a whole thing of beer, or a keg of beer, or a whole whatever it is that. So we're making that pain pleasure. We are causing the divide between, an extreme divide between, by locking up the child, we're causing an extreme divide between our pain and pleasure bugs. And so we're actually making it far more likely for our child parts to go and grab something destructive that will perhaps have a hangover for 2 or 3 days afterwards, or just do something just that's destructive in our life, you know, perhaps with negative people, toxic people or something like that. And so it's almost like there's only so long that the child can remain locked up before the child will potentially grab something. So we're locking our own child up, suffocating our own child, and then wondering why we go grabbing for something negative that we just feel we really have to have something. And then, of course, we get into our physical addictive patterns. Those patterns that continue, because first of all, we've put those locks on our child, and then we wonder why those children just need. A child can't live in a completely unstimulated, locked away place, and it's a real inner child, it's a real person. What is that child meant to do? What is that child meant to do? So yeah, that's what they really want me to talk about. They really want to talk about today is that inner child and our placement and how we treat that inner child. And everything on the outside will put up those roadblocks, because the darker spirits out there, which also exist, they certainly benefit from all the dark, destructive, pleasure gaining roads that we go down. They feed off that. So equally, the negative, destructive momentum will gain and gain like a big snowball as well, because more and more of these darker spirits join in the party, and then we wonder why we were so keen to go even more and more down that road, because more and more of the dark spirits that feed off that destructive patterns, they join the party. And first of all, we have to take responsibility, first of all, for how we treat our own child. Because if we don't treat our child well, the consequences to our life are potentially very dangerous and destructive. But we are the ones that have started that ball rolling in the direction that it started to roll, be it by tying them up or letting them, or giving them some air, giving them some room to breathe, and allowing that kind of sense of, it's not going to feel as controlled in our lives. It won't. And for those of us, yes, we all love to feel we're in control. We're in control. We're in control of our lives. For those of us that really need to feel that buttoned up, it's going to be much harder. It's going to feel chaotic. It will feel potentially worse. But if you allow yourself to go there, your highly developed and intelligent self that you are will allow yourself to find a balance with it. It will be like, it's a new feeling, but I can reach an equilibrium with it. Yes, I can. This is fine. This is good. I'll do that over there. I'll go and cycle on a Sunday. Have a fantastic bike race or whatever it is. I had a fantastic day out and date. But yeah, I can still get my perspective back as what we're focused on. We can tell the child, yeah, we're going to do that again, and we will do that again, and set the date for it. Make sure that you follow through. Don't disillusion your child and disappoint your child so much that the child just kind of dries up. You know, for some people, the child just dries up and almost ceases to exist, but the child is still there, still there. Just give it some water and some food. Give that child some water and some food, and it will regenerate. It's in all of us, this child. For some of us, the child withers up. For others, the child will set up very destructive grabbing patterns where the child will reach out for some kind of pleasure. And because the child has been suffering, the child won't reach out for a moderate pleasure. The child will reach out for an excessive pleasure, like an addictive type of pleasure, something that will cancel out all that suffering. It's not enough just to have something that's okay and feels nice. It has to be something that feels incredibly nice. So that's where we binge. That's the binge. And then there's these patterns, this pendulum patterns that we set up that carry on and on and on like this, can carry on through our lives, through lifetimes. And all because we're not looking. They want us to look almost objectively, look in. What is the state of our child? What is the state of our child now, at this moment? What is this child? Once we ask the questions of the child, we have to ask the questions of the child. We ask the questions, the child will answer. Find the child, get the child talking to us. We have to listen to what the child is saying. We can regenerate all our lives, no matter what is going on the outside, no matter what is going on. We can regenerate, we can reteach, relearn to engage with our own child on the deepest level. Whether you might try meditation or something like that, but it's very important to be talking to the child. Find out what the child is unhappy about, what's going on. If it's been a long time since we've actually, maybe even childhood, since we've actually communicated with our child, directly communicate with our child. How long is it since we've done that? So what is the child genuinely saying? We have to listen. Not say, oh, no, and don't start on about that again. We're not doing that. That's finished. That door is closed. What options does the child have if you're saying that to the child? If we are saying that to our own child, that door is closed. there are very few options. It's either shriveling up or grabbing things. And we wonder why we go on these bender patterns of whatever it is that gives us that really high kick of pleasure. And it's usually a short-lived, because it's a negative thing, so our body will suffer from it. Whatever that is, whether it's meeting up with destructive people, we go on some kind of bender with them in a way, or we go on some kind of roller coaster with them that give us these highs that we're desperate. We have to ask ourselves, why? Why did my child need that roller coaster ride? Why? Why? What gap is it filling for that child? So that's what they really wanted to. That was the card. I've just showed the card there. You can see that little card, the little baby there. Little baby stuck in the cot there, but locked up, but with so much hope and joy and readiness. And that's close enough, is it? That's what we've all got inside of ourselves, whether we feel it, whether we've lost touch with it or not. That is who we've all got inside, literally, like that, inside. That's who we've all got inside of us, like that. And this is what they want me to really talk about and bring forwards from the subconscious. Yes, we would think of this as a concept, and we would think of that as a concept, the inner child. The inner child is a real person. The inner child is a real person. And if we are not in touch with that person and talking with that little person, where are they? What are they doing? Well, they're putting us on a roller coaster ride, a potentially very dangerous roller coaster ride. How long does it take us to get our bodies back again? How long does it take us to recover from these benders, whatever these benders are, whatever these extremes of pleasures that for some people they're more subtle, but they're still potentially destructive. From others, they're extremely, depending on how much suffering that child is enduring, and also if the child has suffered a lot of deep trauma. If the child has gone through a lot of deep trauma that hasn't been looked at and really dealt with, that roller coaster ride will be even more destructive, because the child is still experiencing. When the deep trauma is unresolved, the inner child will remain playing out those traumas, remain suffering, remains, that real person remains suffering within. So that's what they wanted to say today.